Hi and welcome. This podcast, Life Success Pod with Matt and Nat, was created with the intention to help you create holistic success in every important area of your life. I'm your co-host Nat, and I'm truly excited to be co-hosting this podcast with my amazing husband, father of our children, and business partner, Matt. With over 2 decades of experience in mindset, personal development, and the health and wellness industry, both of us have also been personally trained and mentored by the late and legendary Bob Proctor. Having practiced as a naturopath in clinic for almost a decade and working ourselves to create holistic success in our own personal lives, we are both truly excited to support you on your journey to create greater happiness, richer relationships, more fulfillment in your life, vibrant health, and greater abundance and success too. Expect some laughs, some tears as two raw, authentic beings come to you on this journey of life alongside you. We'll share what's worked in creating a richer life for ourselves, what we have learned and applied, and also what hasn't worked. Count on us to give you some practical advice, tools, and tips that you can implement straight away with every single episode. So get ready, buckle up, and enjoy this journey, my friend. Oh, and if you feel like being a great giver, share this podcast with someone else that you think this may benefit. Welcome everybody to our very first episode. I'm Nat and I'm so excited to share with you this podcast. This is the start point, and thank you for being here. If this is your first time listening to us, I thank you for your time, and I'm just so excited to share all the valuable content to help you live a richer life. So today we are starting right at the top. Today is all about breaking down transformation. You know, you probably heard the word transformation. It's all about changing and creating permanent changes, whether it's in our health, whether it's in our business or in our relationships. It could be in anything. Transformation is a process where there's a change. And permanent transformation is where the magic happens. And we also break down generational patterns when we decide to change something that hasn't been done before in our family. It hasn't been done. And sometimes that can be really tricky. It can be messy. It can be uncomfortable. So today, Matt, welcome to the episode. And I would love you to just introduce everyone to the process of transformation, or what transformation even means to you and what you've experienced.
Yeah, so I think when it comes to transformation, there's one thing that really stands out to me personally. And for those who don't know me, I used to be an electrician. I was an electrician for 11 years before getting into the coaching world and the coaching space. But I think the key thing when it comes to transformation, the first step is you got to have a reason for transformation. And I look back at being an electrician, I was deeply dissatisfied with my career. And I just knew within me that when I looked into the future and I saw myself being an electrician at an older age, I felt like down or saddened about it, and I was like, there's got to be something else out there for me. But another key thing that really motivated me to want to change and want to transform myself and my life was, we had our son Oliver, and he was only 1 year old, and every time I'd come home from work as an electrician and he'd run up to me to want to say hello and hug me, and I'd be all dirty and I'd be maybe crawling through a roof or something. And I'd say, no, wait till I've taken my dirty clothes off before you hug me. But I really wanted to spend more time with him. I worked really, really hard. There was something inside me that said there has to be another way for me to earn a living, to provide for my family, while also spending time with them, right? And being there for them every step of the way, to take him to school, to be there for his soccer practice when he wants to play soccer or whatever sport he wants to do, right? To be there for his activities. So I had a strong reason to want to change. I think that is the key thing when it comes to transformation. Someone who's just got like a hope or a wish, or so many people start with, I should change, or I should do things differently. But shoulds aren't going to cut it. We really want to come to a point of, I must change this. It may be something that is like a pain point for you. It's like, you know what? If I'm still living this way in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, is that going to hurt me? How does that feel? and allow yourself to feel that pain to a point where it's like, you know what, I must change this. This must change.
Yeah.
Can't keep going like this. And a lot of people wait for their backs to be against the wall.
Or things to get really bad. Like,
Yeah.
oh, the doctor's there, it's giving you this test result, and you're like, oh wow, how did it get this bad? How did this happen?
Yeah.
Right? It's so true.
Yeah. And you don't have to wait for it to get that bad though. Like you can mentally just say, okay, this is the way it's been for some time. Like if I keep going along this same timeline, along the same track, like where is this going to end up? Could be a relationship, right? You might be spending no time with your partner and you think, well, if I keep living like this, if I keep behaving this way, like where's the relationship going to be in 5 years from now? And you're like, oh, holy moly, I have to change this. And so you get to this point of not should, because should change is not really like certain. So we want to get to a place of certainty. And it's really a decision. It's a decision to change. But I think of when the tipping point for me was when we were at a point where our backs were really against the wall now.
We were. It was tough and it was very painful.
Yeah. It's like we have to change this. Like we're not spending another year living the way we're living. Like we're financially challenged, relationship challenges. We had a few challenges going on all at one time, right?
Yeah.
And
it was a hard place to live at the time. It was survival mode, really. That's really where we were, right?
Yeah. And so we had to get to work on ourselves because we weren't going to still be in that same spot 1 year from now. Like that was too painful to think of that.
In fact, someone actually had asked me, if you keep going the way you're going, what's going to change? And that was a question that really was like a punch in the guts kind of question, because I knew that the direction we were heading in was like a train wreck, right? And I think if you could hook up everyone on this AI device, right? And that AI device, like you answered all these questions, they could see your schedule, they can see your habits, they can see your energy and your interactions and things like that, where you can see where 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, where's that relationship with your son? How about your daughter? How's that going? And it's just that compound, right? And this is the beautiful thing that I love you shared is you don't have to have things to be bad to change. But here's the beautiful thing. Anyone can change. Anybody can change anything. It doesn't matter where they are. For me, for a long time, I didn't think I could change. I didn't believe I could change. There was a part of me that thought I've tried to change, but really, I didn't really give it a good go. I had tried, I had failed in things in business. And so it felt disheartening to try because I was so afraid to fail. That pain of failing was great. And I think that can be a stumbling block at the beginning where we have to be willing, really got to put ourselves out there to fail because you've got to change. You've got to take that risk to love again. If you've been heartbroken, you got to take that risk. You can't hide yourself and close yourself off to any relationship forever when your heart craves love. Like that's the risk we take. But a life without risk isn't a life of reward. And so I think that's a huge step. That dissatisfaction, that leverage, that pain is such a good thing because that means now you're not numb. Like numb is a bad place to be. But having that pain's like, you know what? That's it. I've been waiting for someone to save me. I've been waiting for the stars to line up, for this to finally change. Nothing's coming. So guess it's up to me, right?
And that's such a great point that you make there, Nat. A lot of people are waiting for maybe other people to change around them for things to change. Or maybe they're waiting for the economy to change or something external to themselves before their own circumstances change. But it's so key to take responsibility. And so we got to go from, yes, it must change to I must change it. Like you take that responsibility and now you're not giving your power away. You're actually claiming the power. You're claiming the responsibility. You become powerful rather than powerless. Now I can do something. You might not even know what to do, but it's just making that decision that I must change it. And as soon as you do that, you start thinking differently. Our mentor, Bob Proctor, used to tell us, like, when you make a decision, you flip your mind onto a completely different frequency. And you start thinking different thoughts because you're tuned in to that particular frequency. But if you're waiting for someone else, you're thinking thoughts based on waiting on for someone else to change. or waiting for something else to change. So you're not getting any ideas. They're going to help you to create change in your life or create transformation in life. So decision is such a vitally important step when it comes to transformation.
So true.
And another decision that you can make as well, sorry to just jump in there, is that I can change it. So this is really 3 decisions that you're going to make to start with. It's like, it must change. 2, I must change it. And 3, I can change it. And it's really believing that even if you don't know how right now, that you can actually change it. There is a way. Okay, you don't have to know the way, but you can know that you will find the way, or the way will be shown to you. But either way, it's really reaffirming that it is possible for you to change. Because like you were saying, sometimes people can fall in that, I guess, that limiting belief that they can't actually change the circumstance, or they can't change themselves possibly.
Well, I was there, and that's why I was just going to ask you, how do you go from, or how did you, in your example, pick a transformation? How did you go from I must change to I can change it? Because I felt that took me a little while to get there. I didn't believe I could change it. I thought others can change it, but how about me? How do you get to the point where you're like, you know what? I can change it. I don't know how, but there's got to be something in me. Is that belief? Is that just the deeper the decision? What do you think that comes down to for somebody to make the shift?
Well, I think there's a few different ways that you can come to that realization that you can change. One way is by looking to other people who have changed that same thing that you want to change. That creates a sort of possibility that it is possible for me to change, right? If it's releasing weight and having the ideal body, whatever the ideal body is for you, and you've tried in the past and you start to think that it's not possible for you, look to someone else that had an incredible transformation with their body. And you're like, you know what? Maybe it is possible. It starts to open your mind to that possibility.
Absolutely. I'm going to jump in here with a real life example because you've literally just triggered my mind. When I had a desire to give birth naturally with no drugs or intervention, and I would literally YouTube women giving birth using hypnobirthing. And these women were calm, they were breathing. And the first time I saw that, I was like, oh my goodness, this is real? This is real? You mean the things I've been watching on a screen, on a movie, of people screaming and yelling at their partner? It doesn't have to be that way. And so by literally Googling, and that's the beautiful world we live in, we can go find it instantly. Evidence of someone who has achieved XYZ, whatever it is you're looking for. And then that completely raised my faith and my belief that it was possible for me with the repetition of doing that. And I achieved that 3 times, and I unlearned what birth was meant to be and created the birth I wanted. I love that you brought that up because I completely forgot about that.
It's such a great example. See, it depends on where your belief is at the time. So if your belief is really low, looking to external validation of other people having a similar transformation is going to start raising your belief. Another thing that you could do is look in your past. Maybe there was something in your past that you, at the time, weren't sure that you could actually achieve or accomplish, or you're looking for evidence of yourself transforming through something that you were unsure about in the past, or something that seemed really, really difficult, but you did it. You went through a certain process and you achieved something that was like, wow, like you maybe be really proud of that thing. And it could be completely unrelated. But what it does, by looking into your past and using a memory of those past experiences, it builds this inner belief. Hang on a second, if I did it before with that and I didn't know how, well, maybe it's possible for me to do it with this now. So you just open your mind to that possibility. It's like cracking the egg, right? And just opening a little bit of light can shine through. Because what you're doing, okay, when it comes to beliefs, they're so solid by themselves. But the moment we start questioning them, we create doubt. And if it's a limiting belief, if we're creating doubt, now we're opening up the possibility of, hang on a sec, maybe I can do it. If it's the empowering belief, you don't want to question it because once again, you're creating doubt. But by questioning and looking for the evidence of other people or yourself in the past, now it starts to shake up that old belief.
How good is that?
I can't change this.
Yeah. I'm going to add a third one, only purely because you've just helped me have that idea too. is there's times I've gone to a coach that has helped other people achieve that result. And so their transfer of belief that, like, yeah, I know how to do that. I know how to help you do that. Wow, really? Oh my gosh, like, that's amazing. Thank you. And so it takes this pressure off or this doubt off your shoulders, and you're literally allowing someone in your life that has confidence, that has the know-how, that has done it before, and so their energy's being transferred to you. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
Bob helped us with that when he's like, well, I can show you how to turn your annual income into a monthly income. We're like, all right, show us how, all right? And that is such a solid belief that that mentor has, to pass that on to you, that you adopt it. You start to become that person that believes that too.
Yes.
So that's 3 examples right there of how to develop that I can change. I can do it.
Yes.
Yeah. That is so different to others can do it, right? When you own, wow, I can do that. That is such a powerful place to be.
Yeah.
I just love that. It's so, so good. And if you're listening to this, you can just write that down. Write those 3 key ways to empower yourself with those steps. Now, let's talk about the first step. We've got 6 steps here that we've come up with on how anyone can transform. Once again, it can be anything in any area. Transformation, you're creating a change, you're achieving a goal. It's something that you want, you haven't experienced before. And on the other side of that, you've become a different person. You've had to alter beliefs, and in doing so, you've experienced a different result. And that transformation it alters you on a deep level. So it's permanent, right? It's a permanent change in you. So it's beautiful. It's not just a fleeting thing. It's not just willpower. It's deep change. So the first step we've got here is having that desire, making that decision. This is what I'm doing. And you mentioned pain. Like, that pain has to be greater, right, than all the reasons why now's not the right time, or I can't do it, or I'm waiting for someone. Can you talk to me about the word leverage? Because this is still new to me, used in this context. You've mentioned this before to me, that the more leverage someone has, the more chances they have of change. So can you explain what leverage means in this first step?
Well, I think it's like what we were sharing before. The greater the pain, the more chance someone's actually going to go and take action. They're going to go step into that transformation right away, because there's a sense of urgency, there's a sense of, I must do this. Like, that's your leverage. But you don't have to wait till you get to that point. You can actually even just create it by looking into the future and say, if I keep doing whatever I'm doing right now, where am I going to be in 5 years or 10 years? You don't have to wait for that problem to be here in the present right now. Yeah. So you can mentally create this leverage for yourself. It's like, hang on a sec, I know I need to change this. There's a great book, The Compound Effect. And anyone that doesn't know it, go buy the book. It's a great book. These small, seemingly insignificant things that we do every single day compound over a long period of time. And it may not hurt you today to eat that burger. It may not hurt. It won't make you sick, in other words. It won't make you overweight today. It won't give you heart disease today. But you compound that bad diet every single day over long periods of time. Well, there is an effect to that. Okay, there's a cause and effect to everything. And so it's probably one of the problems, is that we don't instantly feel the negative effect of something. Okay.
Wow, that's huge right there.
Yeah. We don't instantly feel it. It'd probably be good if we did instantly feel a negative effect, but we can anticipate what would be the long-term effect of this certain thing. So we all have habits in our everyday life that are either building us up or tearing us down.
Yeah.
Long-term. When you're playing the long-term game, whether it's your relationships, whether it's your health, whether it's your business, whether it's your career, it doesn't matter, any area of your life, you take it, your habits make or break you. And so we have to just almost zoom out from ourselves, because we are literally, our lives run on autopilot most of the day. 96 to 98% of our behaviors are actually subconscious. They're programmed. So we're moving throughout our day on autopilot and not giving any real thought to the things we're doing. So if we just stop for a moment and zoom out, and it's like, these habits that I'm involved in on a daily basis, are they actually leading me closer to what I want or further away in the long term? Okay. And then we'll start pulling apart. And that's where we're going to make the change. So you can create that leverage mentally and internally.
Yeah, I
If you're
just
not,
love
if
that.
you're not feeling the pain today, if your back's not against the wall today, okay, you create that internal leverage.
That is so good. And here on the flip side, and I've noticed this with you because you've started jujitsu recently, right? I've noticed this with me when it comes to the gym and lifting heavier weights and just thinking, oh, but it's not doing anything. It's not doing anything. And so it's that same mentality that we're like, well, have that burger or just be rude to our child or say something mean and it's not going to have an effect. And in that moment, I think it's just so important to understand everything matters. And that is an idea that I've really embodied a lot in this process of transformation. Everything matters. Every drop of water I have matters. Every time I get up before the sun, it matters. Every time I say, I love you, that matters. But it also matters when I don't show up. It also does affect me when I don't give my best. So it's about really making at the core, like, no, actually, everything matters. And so that creates a mindset of, wow, okay, if that's the case, I'm going to make every decision count. I'm going to make every move be a life-changing move rather than just not caring. So that's a great point. I just love that. All right. Second step, was kind of already spoken about it, is really taking responsibility and letting go of the victim inside. We all have a victim in us, right? It's whether or not they're the ones leading our lives right now or they're quiet in the closet because we've taken the driver's seat. So I guess the victim voice can flare up. It's not labeling anyone like, oh, that person's a victim. No, the victim lives in us. And there are times where I notice that voice come out a little bit more. It's the poor me. Oh, but you don't understand my situation and like what I've gone through. And sometimes we just have to give ourselves 5 minutes to have a pity party and get it out of our system and then go into the world again. But not try and drag anyone into that pity party. That's where the problem lies. So I guess, do you have any advice there on how someone can just, you know what, let's cut the mustard. Let's go through that. No more excuses. Enough's enough. Like, I'm ready. I'm ready.
I think I love that you've just said no more excuses, because someone might not relate with the word victim. They might not see themselves as a victim, but everyone's got some form of excuse.
We're
And
pretty good at, as humans, to come up with them, aren't we?
I think we can all relate to that. We all give ourselves excuses as to why we shouldn't do something or can't do something. And we give ourselves this little guilt trip of, I'll give you an example. Like this morning, I was getting ready. You mentioned I've started Brazilian Jiu Jitsu like 1 month ago today, right? Today is my first month I've completed in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. And I was getting ready early this morning and I just had all these thoughts creeping in about, you know what? It's too far. Like I'm wasting too much time driving to and from. I should be maybe allocating that time for something else, get my kids ready. I've got 3 kids to think of too. It's not just about me. So like this, that it could be called victim, could be called whatever you want, right? But it's an excuse that runs through your mind telling you why you shouldn't do the thing that you want to do or that you said you were going to do. And so we have to just identify when we are falling victim to ourselves, right? Or we are falling victim to a circumstance, or we are giving ourselves excuses to why we can't do something today or this week or whatever it is. And we have to override that. And that really takes us into the third key step, where you really got to map out a new paradigm. You got to create a new plan to follow.
So habit changes, a new action to take, a new follow through, essentially.
Yeah, a new paradigm is like a new way of being. It's like if you go to see a dietitian and they write you up a new diet, that's rewiring a new paradigm. That is the plan for a new paradigm for you to have greater health. Or if you go to see a personal trainer and they write out a plan for you, what exercise do, they're creating a new paradigm for you. They're mapping out a new plan for you to have a certain type of body. And so when it comes to transformation, you have to map out a new paradigm for yourself.
Yeah.
Plan for changing.
And that's uncomfortable because when we're changing anything, we've got this old voice in our head that wants to go back to that familiarity. And I remember starting in this coaching business, and all of a sudden I've got Bob Proctor telling me to go out and connect with people and, do a sales presentation and study that. And whoa, this is like, I've never done this stuff before, had all these limiting beliefs. And so it's just so uncomfortable. The bigger the change, there's the bigger the discomfort sometimes, right? Depending on how deep our stories are. But having that clarity with the next step, all I have to do is this. It's like that one punch just done over and over again, but knowing what that is. What is that next step that's going to move the needle in that area? Whether it's in relationship, like I know for us, wasn't that long ago that our relationship wasn't where we really wanted it to be. Marriages, there's times where your energy is just having to go in other areas too. And we lost sight. We stopped doing the things that made our marriage bulletproof or strong, let's say, because in a way I thought we could get away with it. Oh, but we're pretty good. We're Matt and Nat. But no, I got a bit complacent there. I got very complacent, let's be honest. And so by just making that shift and choosing, you know what, like I am going to make an effort. Like we're going to have a date night. We're going to have some more time together, or I'm going to write a love note and leave it in your coffee mug. It's just that intention in that area. And sometimes it can feel awkward and all the voices come up. Oh, that's silly. It's embarrassing. So that's the sabotaging mechanism kicking in.
Something that just comes to my mind that I want to just touch on now. When you look at a result in your life that you don't like, that you're not satisfied with, you can give yourself a reason why it is that way. For example, you said our relationship or our marriage wasn't where we wanted it to be. And it's because, and whatever we put after because, that is the excuse. That's where we're allowing ourselves to be victims. So someone might say, okay, well, we got 3 kids now. You and I have 3 kids. We have so much of our time goes into their activities. So much of our time goes into raising our 3 children.
Yeah. And so our company is our 4th child.
Yeah. And so we could lean on those excuses and stop ourselves from creating a greater marriage because of those things, right? This is back to step 2. I've gone back a step here just to touch on this, because I think someone now who's listening to this, identify what reason are you giving for the situation that you're in or for the results that you're experiencing. And you have to, when you can identify, you got to tell yourself, you got to stop leaning on that excuse. Yeah. You have to stop leaning on that reason, because we've all got 24 hours in a day. There's only so much time you can allocate to certain things. But if it's important enough to you, you make the time.
I love that. It's not making time an excuse. It's just saying, well, it's not a priority right now. And whether that's with your business or whether that's in saving money or investing money in your future or whatever it is, if it's a priority, you're going to put it at the forefront.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important to not wait for something bad to happen to then decide to give it attention. Let's just take inventory right now where we are in all areas of our life to go, right, this bucket needs more love. This bucket needs, all right, it's pretty good. We can have some love, but this one really needs it. And course correct. That's the key. That's what thriving is like. You course correct. So let's talk about step 4 here, which is a huge one where a lot of people can fall off. I know for me, I've had to learn this, become this, and that is consistent. Consistently showing up, making that change so it's long term.
This is probably one of the hardest things when it comes to transformation. Initially, the key word there. It's easy to do something once. It's easy, if you sign up to go to the gym, it's easy to go once. Or it's even easier for 1 week. But to keep it up, to keep compounding, we talk about the compound effect, okay? That's where the old program tries to pull us back into our comfort, back to what we used to, back to our old lifestyle. Because even though we don't like the result, it's more comfortable than the change that we're experiencing. Change is uncomfortable. And so we have to remember, consistency is the key to change. But in order to change, and really, you got to follow that new program that we were speaking about. And there's a quote from Jim Rohn that I love, where he talks about success and failure. And he says, success is a few simple disciplines practiced every day. It's a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Okay. Whereas failure is a few errors in judgment repeated every day. And so what you're doing when you're creating a new paradigm, when you're going through this process of transformation, you have to decide every single day that you're going to keep recommitting. You have to keep deciding every day to recommit to that one new habit, that one new discipline that you're forming to create this transformation. Okay, because you know what you want, you know the end result. Okay, you know where you are, and now there's this gap that you're filling in and becoming that person to experience that result. And so this becoming process is just a series of decisions that you have to keep making over and over and over again, consistently every single day, until it becomes a part of you, becomes a part of your subconscious programming. It becomes, in jiu-jitsu, we're calling it muscle memory. Now, I'm learning all these moves in jiu-jitsu that I find it hard to remember everything. But I know that through repetition, if I just keep going and practicing, and then I remember this move, I remember that move, okay, and then I'll forget it and I'll remember it again. But I know it's going to become muscle memory where I automatically do that move when that person is in a certain posture. And so the same thing happens with any habit in our life. When you do something enough times, you don't have to think about it anymore. It's
right.
Automatic.
Yeah.
But that's only going to happen with consistency.
Yes, absolutely. And this is huge because someone out there is going, I'm just not consistent. I start, I stop, I start, I stop. And I was that person. So I'm going to tell you what I've done to become consistent. And one of the biggest things I've done is showed up even when it was really hard. Because everything inside wants me to not show up, especially showing up as a coach. Sometimes I lost my voice. Sometimes I had my child to be looked after. And it's just really developing that showing up muscle. Like I show up and making that a part of your belief. No matter what, I show up. No matter if I'm sore, I show up. No matter if it rains, I show up. It's one of the things we teach our children. Show up. Like they rode to school today. It's 35, 37 degrees. I don't know what it is right now where we are. And I was like, you know what? That's building resilience. If we keep avoiding discomfort, that makes consistency really hard. And so rather than avoiding discomfort, welcome it. Welcome the discomfort, knowing that that discomfort is part of the process and that every time you move through it, you build something within yourself no one can take away. It's an internal structure of self-reliance that's happening here. And like the other day, we've got this challenge going on at the gym and I had cut my finger and, I was just not in that right usual state of mind that I'm going to crush this. And I was like, you know what? I don't care because I'm going to show up. And you know what? Other people now know me to show up because that's part of my identity now, to show up. Now, I think that consistency, that one thing of just doing it even if it's hard, and then the other thing that would sabotage me was I'd set myself up for failure. I'd go from not going to exercise to now trying to do it 5 times a week for an hour. Like I would do it for a week, then I'd beat myself up because I couldn't keep it up. It was too much. I have to change all these other things in order for that to work. So it's an adjustment period. So what I learned from that is a snowball effect. And the snowball effect is really about doing something that can build momentum and build confidence. So when I wasn't exercising after giving birth, to then starting to get back on track with that habit, I decided to start with 5 minutes. 5 minutes. And I gave myself 24 hours to intentionally move for 5 minutes. And those 5 minutes turned to 10. And those 10 minutes turned to 20. And those 20 minutes turned to 30. And before I knew it, I was there running half a marathon that I'd never ran before. I couldn't even run 2 kilometers without stopping and wetting my pants, for those mothers that can understand. So like that compound effect moves mountains. It really does. So consistency is king when it comes to permanent change. I think that was a huge mindset shift that I had, was learning to run long distance, because my mind would always want to stop. I can't do it. Oh, this is hard now. Like giving birth, I remember actually saying, I can't do it. But I was so far gone, like there was no option now to keep going, right? And so every time we do that, we build that resilience, we can actually go further. I did a challenge yesterday at the gym and I picked up the 20-kilo dumbbells in each arm and did squats. We had to do, lunges. And the most I had picked up before was 12 and a half. And so here I am doing this challenge. I have to get 16 lunges in. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's going to defy something because I've never done this. And it's not a little bit more, it's significantly more. But I just said to myself, I have everything within me to do this now. I have God's power within me to do this now. Even if I haven't done it before, I can do this. And even if I can't do this, God can do this through me. And that's my mantra whenever I hit that wall that wants to stop me, because it's telling me it's too hard. It's telling me I can't do it. And so whether that was running the half marathon, I had a cramp for 18 kilometers and I just kept going, right? You were with me there. So it's just that mantra to kick in to, I have everything I need within me to keep going. And David Goggins, I love what he says. He says, when you think you can't give it anymore, you're only 40% in. There's so much in the tank. Our mind cons us into telling us that we can't, but there's so much more to give. And I think just knowing that and really believing that, there's this reservoir of more energy you can give, more talent, more in you. There's more in the tank. And as you develop that and consistently keep showing up, you build that new threshold. You build that new threshold and you can go further than before. And that's where your thermostat keeps increasing with consistency.
Yeah, I think that's such a huge point, and that really leads us into the next step of overcoming or stepping out of that limiting paradigm. Because when we're stretching and transforming, there is going to be a little voice in your head that's whispering to you all the time, telling you that you can't do this or this is not for you. Like I really had that when it came to public speaking. Like that's just not who you are. You don't speak in group. Like you're not good at that kind of stuff. Coming from an electrical background, from a tradesperson background, it was nothing I'd ever done before. And so there was a voice in my head constantly trying to con me out of doing the thing that I really wanted to do, but I just didn't think that I could do. It wasn't part of my self-image. It wasn't part of the way I saw myself. Okay. And so as you start to challenge that, step out and do it, well, your opinion of yourself starts to change. Your self-image begins to change. Okay. But you have to be mindful of that little voice in your head that's constantly talking to you. It doesn't stop, and it's telling you whether you can do something or can't do something, or it's telling you whether something's too big a stretch or not. Like, I love what you said. When you think that you've gone too far or that you can't go anymore, like you got at least 60% left. Like keep going, stretch yourself.
Just keep going. And just show yourself what you're capable of. You made me laugh there because I had this moment. A lot of people don't know this. And of course, if this is the first time you've heard any of our content, you definitely don't know this story of the very first webinar that we did together as coaches, right? And this is where the voices come in and that sabotage mechanism comes in. But if you have someone in your life that understands it helps you along your way. But even if you don't, but you understand the process, there's a much better chance at winning. So when it came to our first ever coaching call, right? Here's Nat next to each other, side by side on Zoom, right? Do you want to tell the story? Because you can tell it a whole lot better than I can.
Yeah, I just remember this so clearly. We're sitting in the lounge room together on the couch, and we had the laptop set up on the ottoman. And you're like, are you ready? And I was so nervous, but I was like, okay, I got Nat next to me, so I'll just let her lead the way, and and then we'll just see how it goes, okay? She's like, you ready? I'm like, yeah, I'm ready. Let's do it. And she just hit the start button. You just hit the start button, and you got up, and you walked out of the room and left me there on my own. And I was started like freaking out. I'm like, oh my goodness, like what the hell am I going to say? I can see our clients. It was actually GoToWebinar at the time. It wasn't Zoom.
Yes, it wasn't Zoom. That's right.
Yeah, it was GoToWebinar. And so I could see all their names, the clients' names. And I'm like mumbling and stumbling and I'm not knowing what to say. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm making a big mess of this. And then I see a message pop up. Are you guys there? We can't see you. We can't hear you. I'm like, oh, thank God I was muted and the camera was off. Like, all right, I have a chance to reset. I'm like, Nat, come back in here, help me out. And so there was a huge barrier that I had to break through.
It was tough love in that moment because Matt, at the time, you would always hide under me, like behind me in a way. Like Nat can just do the talking and I'll chip in 5%. Yeah. And I could feel that. And I guess I was learning that too. And sometimes, we just kind of get thrown in the deeper end of things, but that's where we develop wings along the way. And that was how many thousands of hours now that you've had, tens of thousands surely, of speaking now, or whether it's in a microphone, on Zoom, in public, right?
Yeah, look, now I'm very comfortable with it, obviously, because once again, it's that consistency and the repetition. It's not something that scares me anymore. And it's something that we can maybe talk about in another episode, but your fear is in your imagination. And when I learned that, wow, like that was a game changer for me. So I knew that if I just took control of my imagination, that fear wouldn't be controlling me anymore. That's often where most of our problems lie, is what we're actually seeing and what we're imagining is going to happen when we do certain things or say certain things. So we may be getting a bit off track here, but just remember, when it comes to this process of transformation, you have to overcome these limiting beliefs, these limiting ideas that are programmed into your subconscious, and it talks to you all the time, and it can con you out of doing something that you want to do to get a result that you want to get. And so if you notice it, you have to cancel it out. You have to override it. Okay, when I'm feeling the fear of doing something, that's my clear signal to step out and do it. Like, just do it. And I know that if I do it, that fear will dissipate. I know that limitation will dissipate because I know I'm capable of doing so much better and so much more than what I'm currently doing. Even now, after 10 years of developing myself, I've got so much more that I can grow, so much more that we can do. I truly believe our potential is infinite, limitless. And if we just allow ourselves to go into the unknown, okay, it's our own unknown, because someone else may know, but it's our own unknown. It can be scary, but that's where all the growth lies.
Absolutely. And you know what? I was telling a client today, we've got to keep choosing to lean into our discomforts, because that's where living is. That's where when we're alive. If we're not deliberately choosing to get uncomfortable, we start disintegrating, and that's where the door swings wide open for our fears, doubts, and insecurities, right? And so understanding that constant daily stretch, like I'm at a point now where I want to stretch myself daily to do something that I thought I couldn't do, and I use the gym a lot for that, 5 days. And I try to do it heavier, try to do it faster, try and do something that I haven't done before and challenge myself. Having an ice bath does that for me. I want to do it, and then comes to the time of putting the ice in and I'm like, why the heck am I doing this? Like, who in their right mind? What was I thinking? And it's so funny because I start to get angry at myself and I get like bossy at myself. And so I'm just become so aware of that voice that kicks in every other time that I'm going out of the comfort zone too. Like doing this podcast right here. This is episode 1. This happened right before the call. Here I am, 2 years of wanting to do a podcast. We start recording, then Matt stops, and I get cranky because I'm like, what are you doing? and we were on a train wreck at that time, our energy, I was like, and the voices kicked in, don't do it today. You can't do it. The kids have to come home. They've got jiu-jitsu. You got an appointment to take Ollie to the chiro. And I was like, no, I am not doing this today. I am following through because I bloody put it out there on Instagram that we're recording our first episode today, and I always honor my word. And when we have that integrity to honor our word and follow through, it holds us to a high standard, because sometimes we think just because no one's watching, it doesn't matter. It matters.
Hey, that's such a great segue into the next step, the 6th step, which is accountability. That can make all the difference in you actually following through and taking the actions that you have shared with someone else that you're going to do in some way, whether it's a coach, whether it's a mentor, whether it's a family member, whether it's a friend, whether it's a teacher, or it doesn't matter. You're sharing with someone else and you're accountable with someone else that you respect, that you don't want to let down. And this made such a big difference for me in other transformations that I've had. And one of them that comes to mind is when Bob Proctor told me to go out and start cold calling on businesses. When I told him I want to help more businesses with our coaching, and he suggested going cold calling, I was like, no way, that doesn't work. He's like, have you tried that before? I'm like, yes, I have. He said, how long did you try for? I said, 2 weeks. And he started laughing. He said, well, you didn't give yourself enough time to get good at it. He said, starting tomorrow morning by 9 a.m., go and walk into the business, introduce yourself and book a meeting. But everything inside me didn't want to do that. But I didn't want to let him down. I had a certain degree of respect for him that I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. And I'll let him know how I'm going. And so I followed through because I had a form of accountability.
Yes.
You want to make sure it's someone that you respect and someone who's not going to let you tap out when you tap out. Or if you do tap out, they're going to pull you up for it. They're not going to let you off the hook. Like you said, you put it out on Instagram that you were doing a podcast or starting the first episode today. I'm not sure exactly how you put it, but that was your accountability. Yeah. That was your accountability to follow through and do it today, because you have enough integrity that if you say you're going to do something, you do it.
Yeah. And that, I think that's the biggest thing. At the beginning, I needed a lot of external accountability because I didn't have the self-respect that I have for myself today. Like now I have enough self-respect to know that when I don't follow through on my word, I lose respect for myself. And so when I go and say I'm going to do something or say an affirmation, I don't believe it because there's this doubt in my head that says, well, you said you were going to do that last time, but you didn't. And so now I know that one of the biggest things for me to build self-confidence and self-esteem is to follow through on my word. So I don't use my word loosely. If I'm going to say I'm going to do it, I'll do it. I'm going to show up. And I just called the chiro just before. I'm like, hey, can I move it a little later? And she's like, yeah, sure, no worries. So I've honored my word to this podcast and I've honored my word to take my son to his appointment. So that to me builds this beautiful integrity, and I'm being consistent and I'm stepping out of my comfort zone and I'm showing up and I'm spreading my wings. Like I'm expanding. That's transformation. That is expansion. And one of our mentors once said, accountability is a success insurance policy. And it is so true. First, just know where you're at. Do you need external accountability right now? Do you need a coach, like in your health or in your relationship? Because you can say, yeah, well, you know what? That's it. I can see that there's a gap in our relationship. I'm going to allocate 5 minutes a day of just being present with this person. And they're like, oh, well, it's too busy today. It didn't happen. So no one's there seeing it. But here's the thing. We get rewarded in public for what we do in private. We get rewarded, forget what others think. We get rewarded in life for what we do when no one's watching. And if we can really understand that, and just imagine that you're in Big Brother and you got cameras all around you all the time, how would you show up? What would you actually do? Because that's the version of you that's going to grow. The one that keeps choosing to show up at your best, to make that better decision. Right? And so I think that holds us to a higher standard, and that enables consistent transformation as well.
You know, another thing, when it comes to honoring your word and following through and doing the things that you say you're going to do, one of the biggest benefits of that is that you actually develop a stronger opinion of yourself, a stronger self-image or an identity. But every time you don't follow through, you chip away at it. Yeah. So you're lowering your opinion of yourself. You're lowering your identity. And so if you want to create increase in any area of your life, you want to build a stronger self-image. And honoring your word is one of the great ways to do it. There's many ways, but that's an amazing way.
Yes.
To build up your self-image.
Absolutely. And that's an episode for another time as well.
Yes.
Like we've got fear, we've got self-image. But I did want to just finish off by saying, first start with accountability from the outside if you need it. You know, one of the things I did to run and train for that half marathon, I didn't have to do it. No one was going to know if I did it or not, but I would book the race. And as soon as I paid for that 5K, 10K, then it meant that I'm on the hook now. Like I got to train now. So that thing in my mind that was like, oh, I don't want to go training today, or oh, it's too cold to get up at 5:30 in the morning and go for this run. I remember the race. I'm like, all right, I'm doing the race. And so that accountability. So use whatever you can to create that sense of urgency to show up, until you do get to the point where you will show up regardless. And when we did run, you ran it with me, 21 Ks or 21 and a half, whatever it is. There was actually, I didn't pay for the race. We literally ran around the mountain in our suburb, and there was no medal. There was no nice music and cheering and none of that. But I showed up. And that to me was actually so much more powerful because I didn't do it for anyone else. I didn't do it for the medal. I didn't do it for the glory or what it looked like. I did it to do something that I thought that I couldn't do. And I just showed myself. And that influences my business, that influences my parenting, that influences now the next thing I'm doing with my health challenge. It actually literally affects everything that we do in a more profound way, right? So one of the things that I want to leave everyone with is something practical, right? Let's give everyone something practical they can take from this. Some of you are writing notes, some of you are just listening, that's okay. But do this. Take inventory of your life right now. Like, go through your health. What would you rate the health of your body? What would you rate the health of your emotions, your emotional state? Do you feel spiritually fulfilled right now? Do you feel connected to God? Do you feel connected to yourself? Rate your health, your well-being, your mental well-being, and each of those areas out of 10. Rate your relationships. You got a spouse or a partner, what's it out of 10? 10 being the best, most amazing it can be, right? But here's the thing. If you got children, each child, you have a different relationship with each child. What would you rate each one? How about your siblings? How about your parents? How about your friends? And start to take inventory, because some people have a better relationship with a friend than they do with the person they married. And so we want to start to take inventory of our life. How about your income, your finances? What's that out of 10? Your savings, your investments, like financial security. What's that looking like? Go through the most important areas of your life. Even your happiness is an important one. What would you rate your happiness? Truly, like not Instagram happy, but like you're deep in your heart of hearts, out of 10. Would you rate that? How about your fulfillment? What about the impact you feel you're making in this world? And once you know that, then I want you to ask yourself, what would get it to a 10? If it's not a 10, what would be one thing? Look at all the areas, pick the ones, the most important ones you want to improve, and just think of one thing you can do. Like, Matt, what's one thing someone could do to move the needle in their relationship with their partner that would improve it?
Well, I think something very simple they can do is actually allocate a little bit of time every week just to go on a date night. Doesn't even have to be a night. It could be like a coffee at the cafe where they just can spend some time together being present. No phones, just talking and being present. Something so simple can actually build a relationship. I think in a world where we're all so busy, it can get easy to con ourselves into thinking that we don't have time for those little things. Or their time together might be just there watching a movie. That time together is not really being present with each other and developing the relationship. It's actually just watching a movie. Now, so if you like there is a disconnection. So you want to be connected with the person. So I think something so simple as just being present with your partner can make a huge difference to your relationship.
Huge. And seriously, 5 minutes of present time is richer than 5 hours or going on a holiday and being on your phones. So I love that. And with your health, just ask yourself, what would move the needle? Just because I think our health is amazing, doesn't mean it can't get better. Like right now, we've just turned it up another notch, doing celery juices in the morning with lemon water, and now we're doing a juice cleanse. So there's always another level. Just know that. Just because it's good doesn't mean it can't be wonderful. Do you want a good life or do you want a wonderful life? Do you want average or do you want extraordinary? And that's all dependent on you. So pick that thing and then go and do it. Go and act on that needle moving action, and don't just do it once. See, here's the thing. If you want serious change, at least focus on one thing. Do the date, for example. But go do it every week. And then go and ask yourself in another month, what's my relationship with my partner out of 10? And see what the answer is. So you're better off focusing on one thing than trying to change 12 things, okay? Do not do that. Take it from me, doesn't work, okay? Any last final words for everybody, Matt?
I think just based on that, scoring yourself and grading yourself from 1 to 10, don't BS yourself. Be really honest. It's important to be really honest, and it can be uncomfortable, it can hurt, can be, bring up all these range of emotions. That's okay. Just be honest with yourself, because it could be just that, like we were talking about earlier, that pain, enough pain to cause you to say, you know what, I need to change this. Okay, so be real with yourself.
That is so important, because we really BS ourselves into conning ourselves, thinking things are better than what they are sometimes. And then we wonder what the heck happened, why that divorce happened, or why that health issue happened.
Yeah.
It's not rocket science.
Yeah. And so people can be so like positive and optimistic that they actually they play things down.
Yeah, it's called toxic positivity. Yeah,
they play things down that are not very good. And so you'd have to be, it's not about being negative, but it's about being real with where you're at. Now, there's one thing that our mentor taught us is that you got to know where you are and you got to know where you want to go. But you got to be real and honest with yourself with where you're at. And then you can map out how to get there. And so this has been really good, Nat. I really enjoyed this.
I love it. And I think this is going to help so many people. So if this has been of value to you, share it. Share it with a friend. This is our mission, to help people create life success and a richer life, richness in its true essence, not just in one dimension, but in all areas. And that is just so important in the world we live in, to come back to that true success, inner success. It doesn't matter whether anyone on the planet knew about it, you would love your life. Thank you so much. If you've listened this far, that's amazing. Giving you a big virtual hug right now. Thank you, and can't wait for the next episode. Over and out for now. Thanks, Nat. We hope today's episode inspired you on your journey towards creating greater success and richness in your life. If you would love to receive extra valuable content, be sure to subscribe at our mailing at mattandnatmindset.com. That's mattandnatmindset.com, and receive life-changing emails as well as stay up to date on our upcoming events, both in person and online. If you found this episode valuable in any way, it would really help us on our mission to help more individuals and families heal, grow, and prosper. Spread the love by sharing this with a friend over on social media or text. We welcome you to leave us a comment or review and let us know what you've learned from us so far. Head over to our social media channel at Matt and Nat Mindset. Thank you for listening and supporting our channel. Have a blessed day, and remember to treat others from a place of love. This is where the magic of life is lived. Until next time, this is Nat.